Gen Z threatening to take down another government.
Wherever we're gonna die, I don't care. We need our country. We need our country. We need our freedom. We need our freedom in my country. Why are you killing us?
When I get a chance to attend the AU summit, which sits in Ethiopia, I have only one question to ask the members who have been sitting there before.
What question?
What have you been discussing for so long? What have you been talking about for so long? To the extent that some African countries are still fighting each other up to now. Yes, what have they been talking?
Or discussing?
Yes.
African youths have woken up. Something happened in Tanzania. For those who don't know, Tanzania held an election this month. I think it was last month on 29th. They held an election. And something happened. Something that has never happened in Tanzania. Tanzania is being known as a peaceful country. Very peaceful country. And it was peaceful because, one, I can say, I'm not that I'm judging, but I can say it's because they were not so much exposed in information. Right? Or because of restrictions, because Tanzania government has a way of restricting things to reach the people. They don't have a constitution. They don't know about their laws, their rules and everything. But recently, the youths, the Gen Zs, here on social media, they are teaching each others. Tanzania saw what Kenya did with the financial bill. They saw what Nigeria are doing. They're seeing what Burkina Faso are doing. And they are saying, you know what? We have to change. Because Tanzanian government is doing some things that is not okay with the people. And it is being backed by white systems. And right now, white systems are losing control because African Gen Zs have finally woken up. And when the youths wake up, empires tremble. And right now, African Gen Zs are shaking, or African Gen Z is shaking the whole world. Okay? Because whether they accept it or not, the truth is simple. White systems are losing power. Their corporations are losing power here. The IMF systems and the World Bank, they are losing power here in Africa because the Gen Zs have said what? They have said no. This new generation or your generation, the youths between 15 to 30, they are refusing to be manipulated and they are rejecting propaganda, challenging the status quo. Let's watch these clips here and then we continue.
The message I have in my heart is that let us keep the spirit of African unity.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know one day, time will come when Africa will unite. We'll all be happy and sing happy songs. Yes, and one day, Kwame Nkrumah once said, I'm not African because I was born in Africa. I am African because Africa was born in me. And that's the same to me. I'm not African because I was born in Africa. But I am African because Africa was born in me.
Amazing, amazing stuff. You can see how eloquent this young man is. I am truly humbled and inspired by people like these ones. You know, in Swahili, there's a quotation which says, ikianguka mibuyu, milimbolimbo inachipua. Na Chinua Achebe aliwahi kusema, where are the young suckers that will grow when the old banana tree dies? This is the young sucker.
This is to the young Nigerian man and the young South African man. I'm talking about Gen Z. I'm talking about the young boys and men. We will unite. Okay, we will unite, and they're going to hate us for it. As soon as me and you stand up and say that tribalism is stupidity, as soon as me and you stand up and say that we have to unite, we're going to be called disrespectful. We're going to be called arrogant. We're going to be called traitors. Traitors to our flag. Traitors to our country. Traitors to our tribe. Traitors to our clan. And for what? Just because we care about Africa on a larger scale. Just because we see the whole of Africa as our people. It's not about the governments anymore. It's not even about the natural resources. It's about the people. If the people can benefit from me and you working together, if that gives our people dignity, then we'll do it. Jealousy, hatred, and xenophobia are results of trauma that we carry from our great-great-grandfathers and grandmothers because they lost their resources, they lost their dignity, and it's okay. We can accept that. It's okay. We have to be strong enough now to come out of jealousy, to come out of insecurity, and give ourselves props to say that you're strong in this field, I'm strong in this field, let's work together. If we are complaining about how our people are acting today, then let's show them that me and you are worthy. Let's show them that me and you are worthy of leadership. Let's show them that me and you are mature. Let's show them that me and you are the best generation that has ever come out of this continent since the colonial period. Let's show them. Listen, you're my brother and I appreciate you. Me and you are part of the generation that is going to bring back dignity to our people and is going to bring back self-respect to us as African men.
When we lose our fear, they lose their power. This is Gen Z in Kenya. If you watch Western news media outlets, they'll describe what's going on over there. They downplay it. They say that they're angry about a tax bill, finance bill. They're downplaying it, but it is truly a bill that is going to make these people starve. They won't be able to afford food, anything. They already can't afford anything. They already can't put groceries on their table to feed their families. And they're not having it. And thank God for Gen Z. I am so proud of them as a generation. When we lose our fear, they lose their power. Power to the people. Power to the people.
Our governments in Africa don't control the core of the African economy. It is controlled by individuals whose sole objective is maximizing profit and sending this money to the outside world. So that makes it very difficult for us as a nation to be able to solve certain societal problems, because they don't want us to spend more on public issues. And that is where our development lies. How do we make sure that we change the education system? How do we make sure that we read books that entails the African value, the African reality, the African history? But if we do not have all this in place, it makes it very, very difficult for us.
I'm sure you all have seen what is happening in Tanzania. You have seen everything happening in Tanzania, because after Cameroon, now is Tanzania. Same story, same trend, different country, same playbook. Yesterday, Tanzania went to the polls. They had their presidential election yesterday. But what happened wasn't democracy. It was deja vu. The president went into the election almost unopposed because the opposition had already been banned before election. So the people got angry, took to the streets, demanding fairness, demanding their voices be heard. But as usual, the government sent the military to silence them. They were tortured, tear gas everywhere, gunshots, arrests. By nightfall, the president declared a curfew. Soldiers filled the streets, and anyone found outside was taken away. The internet was cut off. The people of Tanzania had no means to share what was even happening. And as I watched everything unfold, I couldn't help but think of Cameroon, because we just saw this happen there too. It's like a script repeating across Africa. Elections without choices. Democracy without freedom. Now, Tanzania today, Cameroon yesterday. How many more countries will go down this same road before we finally say enough is enough? Africa deserves better. I mean, better than recycled dictatorship disguised as democracy. The next country is Uganda. Please download your VPN. Just download your VPN. Thank you all for watching this, and drop your thoughts down there in the comments.
Professor Lumumba, with the demonstrations in Kenya by Gen Z, how is it being received across Africa?
You can see that the agitation that have taken place in Kenya is also being emulated by other young Africans. I've seen the Nigerians take a cue from it, the Zambians take a cue from it, Malawians take a cue from it. So it is a message that there is some restlessness amongst young people because the economies are not performing for them. There's some restlessness because they are not benefiting from the dividends of government, but they can see a small percentage of individuals enjoying and swimming in largesse, and that they cannot tolerate, and that must stop. And if it doesn't stop, it will be checked.
Millennials, a quick one here. Now, you have to prepare yourselves for old age. Because let me tell you, if you are a parent to a Gen Z or you are a parent to Gen Zs, this generation does not give a shit of what is going to happen when you get old. So this perception that we've been having that we have to help our parents is ending with us millennials. Millennials, we are the last people to help our parents financially, sending money back home. These Gen Zs, the way they are thinking, they are just on another level. They are vibrating on a very, very different and higher frequency. These are the ones who are going to tell you point blank, Daddy or Mommy, you could have planned yourself. You worked for all those years. Why did you not plan yourself? I'm planning for my future. And there's nothing you're going to do to them, and you're not going to curse them, because those curses will not even be anywhere close to them. So millennials, up your game. Try and at least save something small for the future. Because if you are a parent to a Gen Z, they are not going to come through. And save this video. Some years to come, you're going to say, I was like a prophet. Don't ever forget that.
Welcome back. Now, let me start with the basis. We have never seen an African generation like this before. That is the reality. I don't know if you have seen like this before. Of course, we had a previous generation. They fought their battles with limited information. They didn't have access to global conversation. They didn't see behind the curtains or the new technology exposing everything in real time. But Africans, Gen Zs right now, they are connected. We are connected from across the oceans. We are talking to Black Americans. We are talking to Caribbeans. They are telling us, And at this time, we are much informed, more loud, analytic, and fearless. And this generation is allergic to lies. That's the reality. When you look across the continent, you see something massive happening, almost like a spiritual awakening. Tanzanians, Kenyans, South Africans, Burkinabe, Nigerians, Ghanaians, the youths are all asking the same question. Why should the West decide African destiny? Why? And the moment that question is asked with honesty, the Western system begins to crumble, because their power has always depended on one thing. Their power has depended on controlling the African mind. Okay? Once the African minds break free, the system falls apart. Great thinkers like Ngugi wa Thiong'o, African professor, warned us decades ago that the real battle is not just about resources. The real battle is the battle for language, identity, consciousness. And now Gen Z is proving him right. I love that. I love what I'm seeing. Youths are questioning everything, And when a generation starts a question, or when a generation starts questioning, it becomes impossible to control them. Let me talk about Kenya, to be precise, for example, because something happened recently in Kenya, because Kenya, they are the loudest sign in Africa. That's for sure. Kenyan youths did not protest. Kenyan youths, we just didn't protest, but we protested with intelligence. Okay? They protested, or we protested with organization. We didn't just need some foreign corporation to protest. We did not need NGOs or need ambassadors or need any Western agent to sponsor our movement. We used TikTok, X, YouTube, Instagram, So for the first time, Western media was forced to report African youth's protest without reducing Africans to savages or chaotic mobs. And that alone scared the Western system. Kenyan Gen Zs created something the world hasn't seen since the Arab Spring. They saw a digital decentralization, or a digital decentralized leadership revolution. No tribal leaders, no political parties, no elite controlling them. Just pure youth power. And here's the part the Western don't want you to understand. African Gen Zs has figured out how to communicate without filters. Because before Western media acted as the gatekeeper, They showed the world that Africa through their own best lens. Poverty, chaos, wars, corruption. And today, just one Kenyan with a smartphone can show the world the truth before CNN even wakes up. And that terrifies them. They cannot control our narrative anymore. It terrifies them because if African can speak directly to the world, Western system lose their monopoly on the African story. And when they lose that monopoly of the story, they lose the power. The only way they are handling the still on the power is because they are influencing the history. They are writing our own story and everything. Okay? For example, Ibrahim Traore is more than a political transformation. Ibrahim Traore is a generational revolution. And Burkinabe youths have become the force of African liberation in this modern era. For decades, France controlled the political, economic, and military systems of French-speaking Africa. They dictated who leads and who falls. But Gen Zs in Burkinabe said no. They kicked out foreign troops. They rejected a France exploitation model. They embraced Pan-African ideology. They united behind a young leader who represents their dreams. Okay? And here's the game-changing part. They inspired youths across Mali, Niger, Guinea, Senegal, and even part of North Africa. Youths or young Africans are starting to realize that the fear of the West is psychological, not real. And once Burkina Faso broke the mental chain, the rest of the region saw that. You can see when you go across Kenya, when you walk across Kenya, you find people with Ibrahim Traore t-shirts. Ibrahim Traore is painted on the vehicles, you know. It just shows how we know where the good is. Okay? Europe government, especially France, could not believe that the youths are no longer they don't fear sanctions anymore. They don't fear threats or social media propaganda. They realize the colonial script no longer works on African Gen Zs. And to understand why, we must listen to scholars like Professor PLO Lumumba, who said that an awakening youth is the greatest threat of neo-colonialism. This generation believes that Africa can rise on its own terms, not on Western terms. Okay? Now, Tanzania, for example, is another example that global analysis are now studying carefully. Under President Samia Suluhu, Tanzanians youths have challenged foreign influence in economic decisions. They are questioning IMF loans, demanding transparency. You know, the youth have become extremely vocal on social platforms, refusing to let the West create their narrative. Even Tanzania are trying to silence the youths. There are a number of things they are doing, using force, you know, and everything. But these aren't make noise. Okay? Now, let me talk about why Western systems are losing control, because that is the biggest part that I'm seeing here. The Western system, the same system that conquered Africa through manipulation, is losing control for four main reasons. Western media or Western systems are losing control for these reasons. Number one is information problems. Saying that, I mean information is decentralized. No one can hide the truth anymore. Western lies are exposed instantly. Number two, the youths don't fear the West. Sanctions, threats, diplomacy. Gen Z laughs at all of it. Number three is Pan-African consciousness is rising. African youths from different countries now think the same way, and we feel connected by that. Number four is Western superiority has collapsed. Gen Zs doesn't believe in Western saviors. Gen Zs right now, they believe in something else. They doesn't believe in Western intelligence or the idea that Europe and America knows better. That myth is gone. That myth is dead. And this is exactly what the Ghanaian thinker Kwame Nkrumah warned the West about. That once Africans reclaim their minds, colonialism, neo-colonialism, and white supremacy will fall apart from the inside. Okay? And we are watching that prophecy unfolding. Now, Let me list the signs, because we have signs that the white system are losing their grip. Because I talked about this to some friend, and they said, no, white people are still strong, America is still strong. Let me give you signs. Number one is France was kicked out of Mali, was kicked out of Burkina Faso, was kicked out of Niger. Something that shocked the world. Okay. Number two, African leaders publicly rejecting Western and their conditions. It shows that we are changing. Okay. Youths are refusing Western-backed political candidates. Africans, content creators educating millions on propaganda. That's what we are doing. That's what is happening right now. It's just an example to give you that we are changing. Another thing is that Pan-African unity has become a lifestyle. Okay? And we have the collapse of fear around the IMF and World Bank. So African Gen Zs is becoming too smart, is becoming too aware, too connected, and the West can't colonize a mind that is awake. Let me tell you something the Western system will never admit publicly. They fear uneducated, they fear united, they fear an awakened African youth more than nuclear weapons. That's what they fear. That's for fact. Okay? Because the awakened youth rejects exploitation. The awakened youth, they support African-centered leadership. They expose propagandas. They questions capitalism. They questions it's called what? Corruption. They disrupt corruption. Okay? So you cannot control such a population. Okay? Even former Western diplomats have quietly admitted that the African youth's question is now the biggest strategic challenge for Europe and America. And one of the video, I had some white folks saying that black youths are the problem of Russia. I think Israel or Russia, something like that, of Israel. Okay? Now, let me talk about the new African identity. African Gen Zs right now are creating a new identity, and this identity is pride in culture, respect for African religion and spirituality, awareness of African history before colonization, rejecting the victim narrative, rewriting the African story, you know. And this identity is becoming contagious. West Africans right now, they see East Africans rising, and East Africans are seeing South African rising, and South Africans are seeing Central African rising. So African unity is no longer an idea. African unity is becoming a global trend. Okay? Even Black Americans and Afro-Caribbeans are reconnecting with Africa. And Africans and the African Americans are admitting that what's happening in Africa is good. Okay? So we need to stand tall as Africans, because the youths we have now taken over, and we need to stand like that. Let's nobody disrupt our unity, because they only use our unity to get us divided. They will only use our own people to get us divided. That's what they have always done. And for us sitting here and talking about these things, it's just a threat to them. When they find a way, they will stop at nothing to make sure that we don't share information and we don't share knowledge to the people. Allow me to say one thing. We are not living in the old age. We know very well the old age had their own systems. They are fighting their own battles, and it's okay because they paved the way for us to be here. But again, the fear that was back then, it was more than the ones we have right now, because right now the fear is gone. When I sit here and talk about the white systems, talk about the government and everything, that means the fear is gone, because back then people could not sit down and talk about these issues. Okay, we are not saying everything is perfect. Across the countries in Africa, they are still regulating. You know, for example, in Tanzania, they don't allow them to share the videos of what happened during the protest. In Kenya, you cannot talk some things that are outside like this. So, yes, we have the freedom. Yes, we can change everything, but still we need to be united. Because once we united as black people, once we united as African youths, we can do anything positive. Because when youths from Kenya sees what's happening in Tanzania, or when youths in Rwanda sees what's happening in Kenya, they are like, okay, is this thing going to bear fruits? And I told them, until they see something changing, they will, okay, agree. Because right now, I'm sure more percentage of black people or African youths are still fighting, or, they want this Western culture. But those few who are seeing change, they are ready to make everything goes. Okay? And that's why I say openly, without contradiction, that African youths have become something else. The Gen Zs have become something else. Not only the African Gen Zs, but we have too the white Gen Zs. White Gen Zs have started rejecting their own narrative. They want the reality. They want truth. They no longer want lies, because lies is only bringing them pain. When white America were lied about their superiority, right now they are having pain because they did not learn how to survive in the situations where it is hard or tough. So when white farmers, they are seeing this economic is going high, they don't know how to survive in this economy. So they are crying. They are making videos like, we are crying, we don't have this. But black people are still quiet. Okay? That's what happens in African Gen Zs. Time's changing and things are changing. Okay? We have to stand firm and unite. Unity is our only weapon to make sure that a president in Zambia sees what's happening in Central Africa, and a president in Mali sees what is happening in Uganda, and he's terrified, saying that if I go there and do this and this and this, these people will remove me from here. So we are the one who's supposed to own the narrative, not the other way around. We gave them a job, let them work for us. We need to fight up to the end as black people to make sure we maintain this. Okay, I have a lot to say, but I don't want to talk more. Let's meet the next episode, okay? Peace out.